Good morning to everyone. First of all, let me thank the organizers of this fifth International PLAS-Forum on Cash in Circulation, plus Service, Banking, and Retail for 2013. We are just, my organization, the Central Bank of the Philippines, or the Bangko Sentral, is very much happy to be invited in this forum. I will be presenting the managing currency in circulation, the Philippine experience. If my voice from time to time will falter, forgive me for that because I just came after 24 hours of travel to be here with you. Managing currency in circulation in the Philippines. But before I would proceed to my presentation, let me just give you some facts about the Philippines. If you see the Philippines in circle, that's my country, if you see that in a bigger part of the globe. The Philippines is an archipelagic country comprised of 1,700 islands. Well, it depends on which part of the day you are looking at. If you're during the day, probably there's 1,700. But if you are on nighttime, when some of the islands are submerged, it's even lesser. As you can see, we are bounded on the right by Pacific Ocean and on the left by the Indian Ocean. Our land area is only 299,000 kilometers, but despite the size of our country, our population is about 97 million. It's just between the size of Mexico and Ethiopia. And according to the worldpopulation.com, we are the 12th highest in terms of population size. The country is divided into 3 regions, namely Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The monetary authorities in the Philippines is the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and it's situated in Luzon. We also call ourselves, or we are known as Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Well, it has 3 regional offices corresponding to the 3 regional divisions of the country. Notwithstanding the size, we have 18 branches. Other countries would probably have very few branches. But in the case of the Philippines, since we are an archipelago, we have to have 18 branches. 8 branches would be in Luzon, 5 branches in Visayas, and 5 branches in Mindanao. We just wanted to make sure that the islands within the Philippines are well served. That's why we have so many branches despite the size of our country. The Bangko Sentral is in charge of monetary policy, banking supervision, and payment and settlement, including currency issue and retirement. Currency in circulation in the Philippines has been steadily increasing as the economy grows and the population expands. The Philippine currency is comprised of both notes and coins. Banknotes comprise about 95% of our currency in circulation. Data on currency in circulation as a ratio to gross domestic product, or GDP, and as a ratio of liquidity indicate that the use of cash has been very stable. Apart from cost consideration, acceptability, convenience, speed, and anonymity at point of sale, there are other factors at play why there is a continued popularity of use of cash. And this would include the existence of large size of unbanked population in the Philippines, therefore limiting their access to cashless modes of payment. Moreover, some people fear high interest rates or charges in case of missed payments, and fear of being harassed in case of default. So they would rather make use of cash instead of cashless modes of payments. After the financial crisis, the Asian financial crisis, a lot of financial institutions in the Philippines exercise tedious process and strict criteria in approval of credit card application. The stability in the use of cash, therefore, suggests that cash will continue to be one of the principal medium of settlement and store of value over the long haul in the Philippines. The denominational composition of Philippine banknotes has changed over time. The Philippines used to have 7 denominations in the early 2000s, of which 4 of these comprise transactional or lower denomination notes. However, because of inflation, the increasing cost of banknote printing, and their relatively shorter lifespan, 2 of the transactional notes have been converted into coins, which would have longer lifespan, and then a new high denomination banknote was introduced. It was also noted that with the increasing number of the use of automated teller machines, or ATMs, the demand for higher denomination notes in volume terms has climbed in decades. Banks prefer to load their ATMs with higher denomination banknotes to minimize the loading of banknotes in the ATM while maximizing the value of the banknotes inside the machine. These are shown in the pie chart by the color blue and yellow, which has increased in size over a period of 10 years. Now, what is the role of the Bangko Sentral in the cash cycle? The Philippines is one of the countries that manufacture and mint its own currencies. Specifically, the Bangko Sentral does the whole cash cycle. The BSP has its own printing plant that manufactures banknotes and mint our own coin. Thus, from the printing plant, the currency is delivered to the currency issue department, and then these in turn are distributed to the cash department and to the branches of the Bangko Sentral for distribution to the banks and then to the public. In other words, the BSP perform the whole function of currency issuance, distribution, and redistribution, processing and retirement in cash cycle. To encourage note recirculation, the BSP maintains a policy that discourages deposit of fit notes through application of fees and charges. In line with its function of currency issue, the BSP forecasts the country's currency demand and translate this into currency order. Currency demand is influenced by 4 variables, namely growth and inflation, the need for buffer stock and contingency reserves, and rate of retirement or replacement. Over the next 10 years, the BSP anticipates that currency demand and consequently currency order, particularly for banknotes, would be on the uptrend, in step with anticipated economic growth and provisions for buffer, contingency, and replacements. The volume of banknote demand is expected to steadily rise by an average of 6 to 7% over the next decade. Let me just present you now the recent development and some of the challenges that we have encountered. Almost 3 years ago, the Bangko Sentral introduced a new series of banknote, which we call the New Generation Currency, or in short, NGC. The NGC note series is intended to coexist with old series for a defined number of years, after which the old series will be withdrawn from the system. The NGC series has enhanced security features which incorporate the latest development and technology and security features. Side by side with the plan to shift to a new series is to increase the capacity of the BSP printing plant to manufacture and print the new note series. Moreover, since the banknote orders are expected to increase anyway over the decade, management has decided to purchase 2 new printing machines, which would be faster, more modern, and which would have greater capabilities. This plan, however, would entail decommissioning or taking out 2 of the relatively older existing printing machines to give space to the 2 new ones. So as not to affect note delivery, management also decided to outsource some of the banknotes, finished banknotes, to cover the deficiency that may arise because of the decommissioning of the two older machines. Thus, as planned, in-house production output was cut by a half. However, unexpectedly, deliveries of outsourced finished banknotes of NGC suffered long delays and missed deadlines. Printers were still adjusting to the new security patch and other features in our new banknote series. Faced with this unexpected development, management tried to increase in-house production to cover the lower than expected delivery of outsourced notes. Unfortunately, since it was decided that printing will be outsourced, raw materials for in-house production were maintained at lower than normal levels. Thus, when in-house production was increased, the inventory of raw materials could not cope with the increased requirement of production. The stringent procurement law for government purchases added to the nightmare, as the process to procure raw materials took a longer time. Thus, the plant suffered low production output. As a result, the low note delivery vis-a-vis order and the approaching Christmas season magnified the tight supply condition, which was heavily felt in 2012. So what was the immediate impact on banknote circulation? The supply constraint had an immediate impact on servicing by the Bangko Sentral of banknote requirements by bank. Requirements for higher denominated banknotes were particularly higher. Some banks had to reload their ATMs with denominations of ample inventory, while some reloaded with notes that are not new and as crispy. At the same time, banks deposited less of the critical banknotes, even if the conditions of these notes were already below the recommended fitness level, thereby compromising the BSP's clean note policy. Since less of the new series are available in circulation, the familiarity of people on the new generation currency series was also affected. Now, under the emerging condition, policy measures have to be undertaken. So what the BSP did in order to address the problem and not to cause further impact on the banking system was to immediately mobilize policy measures to address the supply-induced constraint in the currency circulation, both on the demand and supply side. To manage demand, the banks were informed of the temporary problem in one of the quarterly dialogue of the authorities with them. Banks were informed on the denominations with high inventory levels, while at the same time requesting them to recalibrate the denominational mix in their automated teller machines. Banks were also encouraged to recirculate and exchange banknotes among themselves. Buffer stock and contingency reserves were run down in order to serve the requirement of the banks. Meanwhile, to augment supply of critical denominations, the BSP's policy on fitness level was relaxed. Timing of the retirement of banknotes was slowed down to buy time until fresh supply arrives. Banknotes deposited were reprocessed to recover relatively good ones for recirculation. The BSPD, that's our printer at the Bangko Sentral, which is also part of the entire Bangko Sentral organization, increased the number of production shifts to increase output. A special group within that printer or the BSPD was designated to fast-track and monitor procurement of raw materials. The different levels of approving authorities were notified of the incoming procurement of banknotes-related raw materials in order to prioritize the approval of purchase requests. At the same time, procurement of finished banknotes from other suppliers were also pursued. These combined initiatives have provided some breathing space and eased the supply conditions of the banknotes by the second quarter of 2013. Now, apart from these short-term policy measures, the Bangko Sentral is aware that the problem of supply constraints will remain if no fundamental action is done to expand the plan and production capacity. Specifically, authorities expect. Now, the Bangko Sentral is aware that the problem of supply constraints will remain if the fundamental problem, if there is no fundamental action with respect to increasing the capacity of our plant. And besides, as I've said earlier, production order will be increasing over the next decade. So there must be something to be done right now. Besides, the experience of the Bangko Sentral with regards to the delay in the delivery of outsourced notes made it more committed to produce the banknotes by itself, to be self-sufficient, and to have a sustainability in currency supply. So towards this end, authorities is now embarking on 10-year plan. This is a long-term planning, which is better than the planning exercise that is based on a 2-year horizon, because that's how we do it before. Now we're moving towards a longer-term horizon of planning. This way, there would be more consistency and continuity in the expansion plan. The authorities also recognize that one of the causes of the problem in the past was due to non-availability of raw materials. Now, to manage currency supply, an effective planning on raw material procurement is therefore very crucial. Authorities is now considering award of bid to at least 2 suppliers of finished banknotes, if ever we're going to outsource it again, in order to manage risk in the event that one of the suppliers would experience difficulty in making the delivery. More than this, the authorities are also looking at improving the substrate for low denomination notes. It was noted that lower denominations comprise about 44% of our total banknotes. And these lower denominations would have a shorter lifespan. So to the extent that we are able to improve the substrate of our lower denomination banknotes, then this would allow us to have the banknotes circulate longer and would allow the central bank to reduce the cost of burden of printing. The acquisition of currency management software could also improve currency management. Currency management software could effectively monitor inventory and availability of raw materials and other banknote-related supplies. It can provide warning even before the levels hit the critical point. Facilitating the demonetization or the withdrawal of old banknote series could also help. Printing would be faster if a schedule of printing in each machine is well arranged. Now, by demonetizing or withdrawing the old series, then machines printing can be concentrated into one type of banknote series. Apart from this, there are other initiatives that are also being considered. For instance, heightening public information campaign. The public should be trained the proper way of handling banknotes. You see, in the Philippines, folding and writing in the banknote is very usual. It's an ordinary practice in the population. So if for some reason we can be able to heighten the public information campaign, then banknote retirement could be reduced if public handling could be improved. Authorities are also studying to adopt steeper penalties for those who are intentionally mutilating notes. A higher penalty could discourage those who intentionally mutilate banknotes. So in closing, as I'm only given 20 minutes, the sufficiency of currency is a mandate of almost all central bank authorities. The Bangko Sentral is not an exception. In this regard, it is prudent for central banks to have a menu of policy actions which could be mobilized in the event that there would be unexpected things that will happen. The short-term and long-term policy actions of the Bangko Sentral are ways to manage currency supply and ensure continued flow of banknotes in circulation to meet the demand of its stakeholders. Thank you for your attention.